What is the cost of selling a home? It's a great question that a lot of sellers that I start working with early on in the process are very curious. Selling a home is going to vary depending on each homeowner's circumstances. Now, there are some standard costs, that we'll talk about, and then there's the unexpected or the not planned for because sellers just aren't aware that it's part of the process. I'm going to use a couple of terms when I'm describing these costs to you, and I want you to be aware because it can get a little confusing. One is paid out of proceeds or paid at closing. What that means is that cost just gets deducted from the seller's profits and paid by the closing attorney directly to whoever needs to get paid. And then I'm going to use the term seller paid cost, which means the seller's paying that directly, writing a check, usually prior to closing, but it's still a cost of a home sale. The number one obvious cost to selling a home when working with a real estate agent is commission. Now, there's no standard in the industry, but I do tell my sellers to plan on an average of 5 to 6% commission. So there are discount brokerages, and then there are brokerages that charge more. But 5 to 6 is a good average. It's a safe average. Always use the higher number, and if you end up doing it for less, awesome, right? More money in your pocket. And this cost gets paid at closing out of the seller proceeds. Mortgage payoff. This is a big variable. It's going to depend on how long you've had your mortgage for. If you're 30 years in your home, hopefully it's paid for. If you're only 5 years, you have a bigger paid off amount. Common sense. This is paid at closing through the seller's proceeds. Number 3, prepaid taxes. In Massachusetts, we prepay a quarter ahead of time. So that means in quarter 3, you're actually paying quarter 4 taxes. So what typically ends up happening in Massachusetts is the homeowner, the seller, gets a credit back from the buyer. And the earlier in the quarter that you pay, the bigger the credit back. Towards the end of the quarter, the smaller. So that's a variable that, depending on where you are in the quarter, could be a big amount that you get credited back or a small amount, but you're going to get a credit back. Number 4, tax stamps. Tax stamps are a tax paid by the seller at closing out of the proceeds. This is a one-time tax that the state of Massachusetts applies to a home seller. The cost of the tax stamps is $4.56 per thousand. So roughly on a $500,000 home, you could expect to pay $2,280 out of your proceeds at closing. This is a one-time tax. Another home sale closing cost is HOA or condo fees. If you're in a neighborhood that has HOA fees or you are in a condo, you have to make sure that all your fees are paid up ahead of time. So this is a seller paid cost. Also, your association is going to charge you to prepare what is called a 6D certificate, which is needed to close, which is a document that states you are paid in full and current on all of your fees. Number 6, your final utility bills. Yes, we pay our utility bills month to month, but sellers are always like, oh yeah, another expense. So I always include this on the list of things sellers have to pay. Now, typically, by most cities and towns, the water bill is paid out of the proceeds. I'm going to put an asterisk here because there are some towns, only a few that I know of, that are now requiring the seller to pay the water bill prior to closing. All of your other utilities are typically paid for prior to closing. If you're in a town that has its own electric company, there are a couple in Massachusetts, and they do vary on how they require you. Some of them allow you to pay it out of proceeds, others require you to pay it prior to closing. So your agent will help you gather that information, make the phone calls for you to find out what the protocol is for that. But most of your other utility bills are directly paid by the seller. Another home sale closing cost is attorney fees. Sellers in Massachusetts sometimes forget that we are a two-contract state. So we have the offer, which is prepared typically by a real estate agent, and then the purchase and sale, which is typically prepared by an attorney and negotiated between the buyer's attorney and the seller's attorney. This cost is paid out of the proceeds at closing. On average, $1,000 to $1,200 is what I've been seeing lately. So, but sometimes it's a little less, sometimes it's a little more. Work with your agent. I'm sure they work with great attorneys like I do and can help you find one that's affordable. Number 8, recording fee of the mortgage discharge. This needs to get recorded at the Registry of Deeds for your county. This is approximately $100, again, depending on the county, but $100 is a good estimate. And this gets paid out of the proceeds at closing. Number 9, it's not a big fee, a courier fee. Sometimes attorneys have to send things back and forth between the two offices or to their clients. So if that's the case, there's a fee for that. I've never seen it go over $100, but again, that's an average, could be more, could be less. And that is paid out of proceeds. Number 10, wiring fees. Most of the time, the seller opts to have their proceeds wired directly to the bank account. There is a charge from your bank to do this. It varies a lot. I've seen as little as $35, I've seen as much as $100. So check with your bank. And this gets paid out of proceeds at closing. So far, a lot of things are paid out of proceeds at closing. So that's a good thing because you're not writing those checks all the time while you're in the middle of this. Okay. Here's one that is paid directly by the seller prior to closing. Number 11, smoke and carbon monoxide inspection. You are required as a seller in the state of Massachusetts to have your smoke detectors inspected. Ooh, you say that a couple of times fast. And they have to be in compliance. I'm going to put a link in the description to the massgov site to that pamphlet. So you have it, but they have to be within 10 years of age. They have to be, the right type of detector depending on their location. So I'm going to put that link in the description for you to have to look at it. Now the smoke and CO2 inspection varies from town to town. On average, I've seen about $50, but I've seen it higher, especially closer to Boston, and I've seen it lower. So, but plan about $50 to $75 for that, and that is paid by the seller prior to closing. Number 12. Title 5 or septic inspection. This home sale closing cost is seller's responsibility prior to closing. Now, there's a couple of pieces to this. There's the actual inspection itself. You hire a private company. Your agent can help you, provide you with a list hopefully, or your Board of Health can provide you with a list of inspectors. They come out, they inspect your septic system. Hopefully you pass. If you pass, it's their fee. Right now I'm seeing $600 to $700 on average. Could be more, could be less. I'm always going to put that caveat in. Now, what happens if it doesn't pass? Seller has to make a repair. So this is usually an unexpected, kind of shocking cost. Hopefully it's just a small repair, $1,000 to $2,000, and you don't have to replace your whole system. But now the seller is responsible for making those repairs. A copy of the Title V report will go to the bank, and a copy will go to the local Board of Health. 13. This home sale closing cost, right now, home repairs or repair cost after inspection. Not seeing a lot of them because of the current market conditions, but I'm going to talk as if we're in a normal market. In a normal market, which someday we will be there, hopefully, buyers have an inspection, they negotiate some repair cost. This can be handled one of two ways. The sellers can take care of the repairs to the buyer's satisfaction and pay for it prior to closing, or the easiest and most common way is the seller gives them a closing cost credit for the repairs. That way it just comes out of the proceeds at closing directly to the buyer, and then they can take care of the repairs after closing. Easiest on everyone. Seller, you don't have to deal with it. You know what? Buyers are typically more comfortable because, hey, they get to pick who does the work. And number 14, last but not least, and this is always a cost that sellers don't think of until they start getting into the conversation with their agent, and that's the cost of prepping your home. This home sale cost is paid well before closing, typically before the house goes on the market. There's staging costs. Maybe you need a fresh coat of paint outside or inside. You need to have, landscaping, curb appeal, big deal. You hire a landscaper to come in, mow, edge, weed, trim all the bushes so it just looks perfect when you hit the market. Maybe you need to rent a dumpster. Maybe there's a few minor repairs within the house, the leaky faucet, the outlet that's not working, those type of things that you should take care of before going on the market. Maybe even you have to rent a storage unit to put some of your belongings in while your home is on the market. These are the 14 most common costs home closing costs that I have come up with. If you can think of others, comment below. I'd love to know some closing costs that I didn't think of. And also, that's a lot of information. A good agent, like myself, is going to provide you with this list prior to your home going on the market, so you know when to expect to pay them. When possible, give an estimate so you know approximately how much that's going to cost. So like this video and found the information useful, go ahead and hit the like button, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel so you can see all future videos as soon as they come out.